anyone willing to create change. They can come from future makers like you. The Caribbean needs your big ideas to create positive change. Your radical ideas can propel us into a more resilient future. Your ambitious ideas can make our region stronger and better. For more information on how to join the movement, go to www.caribbeanpivot.com. Will you make a moonshot? Let's innovate.
And we are speaking about pivoting, and the pivot is a movement of big ideas for a smart and resilient Caribbean. To speak more on it, we are joined by Musheer Kamau, who is the Regional Operations Advisor for the regional community in the IDB. We also have Mohammed Muwakil, lead vocalist for Freetown Collective. Gentlemen, we say thank you for joining us. And Musheer, I want to start off with you, please, in terms of defining the pivot movement within that need for increasing resilience.
So it's a great pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for inviting us. Mohammed, good to see you as well, and greetings to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Pivot is about figuring out where you are and figuring out where you want to be, and taking the steps that you feel are necessary to actually make that transition. What we felt is that given the narrative of the region and the development path that the region has taken for the last several decades, that to go to where we want to be, it couldn't be just small steps. We need to make some big jumps, and we need to find a way to get the people on board in creating that vision and making those steps together. And that's what Pivot is really about at its essence.
And you talk about big jumps, you talk about stretching, you talk about moonshots, which we will get into specifically in just a bit. But Mohammed, you said that the song Shine is something that actually stretched you. And can you chronicle some of those events, please? In what ways did you have to grow, evolve, develop?
First of all, it's always a challenge when you're asked by an institution to create something that is representative of them. You have to kind of locate your own self in their ideas, see where what they are thinking mirrors you, and then create from yourself so that the thing you're creating isn't contrived. And I made something initially, and like I've said this story a million times now, but then we heard this speech from Mia Motley, which was very inspiring. And we had already finished the project. We had 2 days to submit, and we heard this speech, and we just decided to go in, to take the next 2 days of our lives and completely commit to coming up with something that was more representative of what we felt was the ethos. Yeah, the song itself, even vocally, has stretched me. After this song, you know, it kind of has resulted in me, I wouldn't say specifically because of the song, but the song has made me take a 3-month hiatus to do some more vocal training, because I've seen what I'm capable of, and I don't want to, you know, mess with my voice too much. So I literally, the pivot movement has kind of inspired me to even aim higher within my own self, and has pushed me in that direction. So, you know, I give thanks for that too.
And this is something that we see, and Musheer, you've spoken about it as well, in terms of having individuals challenge each other, cause each other to grow, be those sounding boards for some of those big ideas, as opposed to saying, okay, well, it's just totally negative, but this is a space that we can develop and move forward from. But we just spoke about the event, you spoke to it rather. Now, what was that event about in 2020? And what were the participants challenged, or what were they supposed to be doing within it?
So essentially, we felt, well, the planning for this happened well before we even knew a pandemic was coming. And we thought that it'd be great to take the people of the Caribbean and ask them to just imagine what the region is going to look like in 2040. And we thought about so many different ways to do it. And by the time when the pandemic came, it became obvious that there was only one way to do it. So we had competitions, and then we had a 3-week kind of jam session where people brainstorm again, you know, thinking about what does digital transformation mean for the region? How do you reimagine tourism, which is a very important sector for the region? And then we looked at electric vehicles and think about how those can change structurally the way that we function and move things around as a people. So they came into that space. We asked them to whiteboard everything. Just imagine that resources are not a constraint. How far and how big can you dream? And that's what was created. And you see the results of this captured in the Pivot book, which is published on the website, CaribbeanPivot.com. So you can follow that and check it out and see what are some of the things that the people of the region dreamt.
But Musheer, what do you think that does for individuals in terms of networking? Because sometimes you may have someone who has a big idea, but they're thinking, or they're actually being told that they're crazy. This isn't making any sense. But to be able to network with other big thinkers, other dreamers, there's the line or the lyric from the song, you may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. What does an event like Pivot do for the space in a time like this?
Well, essentially, the first thing that we wanted to do is to kind of counteract that narrative, which is, I mean, I'm Caribbean, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. And I think that there are a lot of people who push for us to dream and to think that we can actually make a difference. And Prime Minister Motley spoke about where she says that smallness doesn't mean that you cannot dream. It doesn't mean that you cannot think and make and create things that will have an impact on the greater world. And we talked about several examples of how that has happened in the past. So what we found happening is that as we kept encouraging people to really think that they can impact their own destiny, our destiny as a people, that they were more expansive in what it is they could think about. And we wanted to reach more and more people like that. So when we put them together in that space, we had business leaders, very important CEOs, we had people in NGOs, we had philanthropy, we had academia, entrepreneurs, artists. We brought together so many people from across the different parts of the region. That was really powerful to see the results that came out of that. And indeed, being together as people, even though it was virtually, it led to some very powerful results.
And is that something that you felt as well, Mohammed?
Sorry, can you repeat?
And is that, what did you get out of the experience in terms of being engaged with the Pivot movement?
I still didn't hear what you said.
What did you get out of the experience? Because I know you said it stretched you, I know you said that you've grown, but in terms of the actual Pivot event itself, what were some of the things that or those high points, or just those things that you would remember? What's some of those that stood out for you?
In terms of our own personal experience, it's always such a joy when you encounter an organization as large as the IDP that is actually willing to dream, is actually willing to give people space and place to dream. So when they came to us, they wanted a performance to close out the final day of the seminars that they had, right? And they allowed us, even in terms of creating that, to dream for ourselves, to be like, okay, well, we don't just want you to come and stand there and perform for an hour and a half. What can you do? And that allowed me to create an entire team, to take my entire team and allow the team to dream. What can we actually create? And in that moment, I really realized that what they were saying was real, that they weren't it wasn't just lip service, because they came to us with the exact same energy. And that gives me hope. When institutions like the IDB come forward with these types of thoughts, it makes me feel as though, yes, what I believe in terms of us moving into a new era, it's actually true. It's not just me here by myself thinking, okay, but there are many people out there who are realizing that the time has come for us to dig deep inside ourselves and to dream a better tomorrow. We're not just going to work our way into a better tomorrow, because if you're not dreaming and seeing it clearly and seeing new ways of doing things, sometimes the work can be absolutely in vain, And
I get that. And Musheer, one of the things we want to speak about when we return from the break is the way that you all set out to have partnerships in a way that, one, can build capacity, but also, two, empower those players. Because sometimes a partnership may more feel as though, okay, well, you're working for me, or I gave you this and you do it, and this is exactly what I want. But that ability to grow and to dream while doing that is something that I want to touch on when we return.
You're a little island. So you're born into a situation where you feel lesser than other people, and it's called self-contempt. But once I began to shed my self-contempt after the power of this thing we call mass was revealed to me, it becomes a mission of mine to help people shed this self-contempt. Because some people still don't understand that the things that we do best are worthy of hallelujahs.
Things that we do best are worthy of hallelujahs. So if that's just that little snippet, I can imagine what the entire thing would have done to those who witnessed it. And then we actually have the testimonial of Muhammad. But welcome back. We are speaking with Musheer Kamau as well as Muwakil about the pivot movement. And before we took the break, Musheer, we wanted to ask about partnerships. How do you decide this is an entity, a body, a group of people, a person that I want to work with?
So the first partnership I want to tell you about is the one that created the pivot movement. So it includes the Caribbean Climate Smart Accelerator, Singularity University, Destination Experience. The IDB was there. We had participants from the World Bank, etc. So it's really about giving voice to the people. But in terms of what we do as the Inter-American Development Bank, we have offices in all the countries that we serve. And we are here for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We are here for the people of the region. And the least that you can come away from by approaching any member of our teams in any of our countries is at least some sort of better idea or referral. But for in many instances, with the right ideas along some of these themes that I just mentioned, we have opportunities to develop those ideas with you, if it's in the private sector or even NGOs. We work with a lot of philanthropies in order to work in communities. So I'm not entirely sure exactly how it is you want me to frame this, but the point of it is that we have a lot of ways to engage with the people, depending on what it is you want to do. So yeah, I would just simply say, reach out to us. You can reach out to us even through the Pivot website, Caribbean Pivot, or go straight into, call up one of our offices. We are listed in all the directories and we are available online. You can go to www.iadb.org and find the details for any of our country office locations.
Thank you. The way that you framed it was beautiful, but I also want to choke a little bit of fire with the question of why specifically Freetown Collective to be the group to carry the message home at the end of such a pivotal, pun intended, sort of event?
Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer somewhat because, you look at the conscious message of a group like this. We were very, very deliberate in terms of finding a group that was putting out a similar message that would resonate with Pivot. And we didn't think that we would be able to land the agreement, actually. So we just simply approached. So this is what we're trying to do. And we got a positive response. If you listen to a lot of music that's coming out of the region, that's being played in the region, it's really not necessarily things that are building people, building minds, provoking thoughts. And for sure, I think that if you examine, which I did, the work and the ethos of Freetown Collective, it made for a very good match for us. And we were happy when they said yes.
All right, and I think some of the other pivot partners are the Inter-American Development Bank, Singularity University, the Caribbean Climate Change Accelerator, and Destination Experience. But Mohammed, I want to bring you back in, please, in terms of these moonshots that I want to discuss with Musheer in just a bit. Because if I'm correct, you said that nothing amazing is born out of ease. So I'm wondering how much of a moonshot is Freetown Collective in and of itself?
Freetown was the moonshot for me in many ways, right? Because, not to overuse the word, but my entire life pivoted. I went from civil engineering to decide that I wanted to do arts and to do music because I was following my heart. And there's so many young people who don't fall into traditional ways of earning a living or traditional paths, and our education system still hasn't found a way to really spotlight multiple intelligences, right? We kind of still focus very much on one type of thing. And that type of thing is the ability to remember at this point, right? Rote learning is not going to take us forward. I don't think it ever has taken us forward, right? And so Freetown continues to be a moonshot. We wake up every day and we think of what's the greater thing I can do? What's the grander meaning behind music? Am I just putting out songs for people to hear and enjoy? No, that's not my intention. Am I entertaining, yes, but I'm not entertainment. What's the further thing we can do when it becomes life purpose? You know, what are the ecosystems I can create around songs and sound, you know? Yeah, Freetown, I mean, when you take your life and you aim at something, it should be grand, you know?
I take that point, and that actually brings the next question for Musheer, in the sense that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So sometimes we may think that an idea is so grand and so vast, we're not quite sure how to make that first step. And with that in mind, I want to ask about the significance of putting those 9 moonshots, those fabulous ideas, into a medium like the comic book. What was the significance of that?
Yeah, so we call them graphic novels these days, and it's a different way of actually presenting material in a visual way. It's more inclusive. It reaches to a younger audience, which you know, this kind of genre resonates with, and it's super colorful and allows us to show our people to audiences that can't imagine what we look like and how we interact, but in a completely new time era. The whole idea of moonshot and moonshot thinking, I mean, I gave this analogy last year when we started with this to help people understand why a serious institution like this is engaged in something that some people criticize as being playful or too creative. All right, it has to do with grasshoppers. So you have a there are studies that show that if you have grasshoppers, they will continue to jump as high as they can probably jump. But if you take them and you actually put them into a jar, they'll jump and they'll learn the height of where the lid of that jar is. And even if it is you remove that jar after them being in that jar for some time, they will never be able to jump as high as they used to jump. They believe that the roof is exactly what it is they learned. And we felt as though that, at least for me as a development practitioner, how do we take people and help them realize the lid is removed? Let's remove the lid and let us jump as high as we can. And that's the first thing that came in. Said, why do we have to write another boring document that nobody's going to read? We have the boring document as well. I mean, if people want to read that, we can send it to them. But this graphic novel is actually causing a lot of conversation. And it is the result of a very frank conversation about, is there another way for us to engage people in thinking about how do we dream together?
And in terms of that level of engagement, finally, or final words, I want to ask you once more to remind us, how do people engage with the pivot movement?
Well, from my side, the first thing I am asking everybody who is within the sound of my voice is to know that we believe in your moonshot, we believe in dreaming. We think it's a very serious activity for us to be able to create vision. From vision, we are able to develop strategies and plans. We work a lot with strategies and plans, but as long as we stop dreaming, as long as we stop having visions, then we run into certain roadblocks. Please continue to believe in what it is you feel is the reason that you're here on this planet to do. Reach out to us. You can reach out to me. I'm Musheer, Musheer at iadb.org. I respond to every single message. Reach out to our teams in our country offices. Go on CaribbeanPivot.com and see how it is you can actually get involved as we plan for another moment where it is we continue this conversation and use the results of our conversations in order to influence the direction in which it is we want to take the region.
Thank you so much, Musheer. Thank you so much, Mohammed. The things we do best are worthy of hallelujahs. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm DK Rosta. Thank you for joining us.